This stuff Yerushalmi Shekalim in the Art Scholars edition with Chavav Amud Aleph, the fourth line down, right after the brackets in the Art Scroll. Mantana Shomer Espichim in the Vilna Yerushalmi. We're on somewhere in Tes Vav base. The Vilna Bavli Yerushalmi is a little bit hard to find, but it's on Yud Amud Aleph, 19 lines on the bottom. 19 lines at the bottom of the page. Who is the author of that opinion that you pay the Shomei Svichim during Shvius to make sure that nobody takes the produce which is destined to be used for the Omer. So it means it's a public function. Rabbi Shmuel. It's going like Rabbi Shmuel because if it's going like Rabbana, they don't have to watch Svichim. They can bring it from Syria. No Svicha Shvius there. So the Gemara says, Amr Beis says no Divrei Koli. It's going according to everybody because Lo Motzu B'Syria. Let's say it's a year in which crops don't grow in Syria. So if they don't find in Syria, they have to bring from Eretz Yisrael. And Eretz Yisrael, they have to watch the Svichim. There'll be the extra Svichim, which are Hefker, and uses them. So therefore, in that scenario, you'd have to pay Shomei Sichas from Chumas Alishka. Okay, the Brakol Lo Motzu B'Syria Bevino so Mispichin Sheba Eretz Yisrael. Because Syria, you'd have to bring from Svicha in Eretz Yisrael. All right. Well, what about Shemitah? You can't find anything. Can you plant grain during Shemitah for the purpose of the Korban Omer? It's by this in the Torah. So it says, when Rabbi Chia Bar Ada said, I understand the question. Why would we do this? Are you not good? It's not like you're taking kmitza when you take the kmitza of Korban Omer on the shiraim on the remainder, which cannot be eaten by the kohanim. The kohanim have to eat the remainder of Korban Mincha, and they can't eat it here because it's a shemitah. So I saw my cousin, the over Yerushalayim, asked a question. He says, "Well, what about the Korban Tzara would be a problem because you have principle of Mimashka Yisrael, that the Korban has to be something which is mutter to Am Yisrael, and this is not going to be mutter to Am Yisrael. The Korban itself is going to be also because of Shemitah." So Reb Chaim, I think, bavorns this question. He doesn't speak it explicitly, but he kind of anticipates it. He says that the Gzeres HaKosov, bringing the Omer during Shemitah, would tell us that we don't need to have Mashke Yisrael on the actual Kemetz, but we have a question on the Shiraim, right? What about the fact that besides that which comes in Zbeach being mutter on the Gzeres HaKosov, you have to bring the Perush Shvius as a Korban Omer. You're going to get the problem with Sham Shein Yecholim. So I think that really what the Gemara is asking is that let's find another Eitzah. In other words, should be l'chadchila, maybe in this case being Chutz La'aretz. The Torah said bring during Shemitah from Chutz La'aretz in order that you should have Korban Omer and it should be able to eat. In other words, is this the best we can do? That bring it from Eretz Yisrael and the Kohanim not going to be able to eat from it? Surely we could do better. So I think it's why l'chadchila is the question. But the Reb Chaim also makes another point. He says that, well, wait a second, the Meshumar is also b'achila. And the Shomer Svichim are watching it during Shemitah, and that too is also achila. So that should also be a problem. The Shiraim Einam Necholim. So he says that's no, because here the Shomer Svichim, we said they're not actually safeguarding it like and putting it under lock and key. They're understanding that people don't take from here, because this is meant for the Korban Omer, so it's not true Meshumer. True Meshumer is when it's locked away in a field, which is not given access to other people. Here, access is given to other people, but we tell them, please don't eat it. So it's a different type of Shimur. So that wouldn't be a problem. So in any event, but what about Mashke Yisrael? Not Mashke Yisrael. So what about the Shalom Shein Yecholim on account of the Isser of having planted during Shemitah? So he says, Amarle, so he said, it's like when you bring Korban Omer B'tumah. In Korban Omer B'tumah, you can't eat it. Right, that's what you bring anyway because it's Korban Tzibur. It's the Muhtra B'Tzibur. So to here, even though we would say the same thing, right? We have to bring the Korban Omer during Shemitah, and has to come from Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so it can't be eaten. So therefore, but it would be just like we say by Tumot Tzibur, it's only on the carbon itself, and the shrine you can't eat it. So Tir would say the Torah said, bring the carbon during Shemitah. You have to bring it, but in a chlam, you can't eat it. So we have precedent for saying there's certain karbanos which you can, which you bring, carbon omer, which you bring under certain circumstances where you can't eat the shrine. Here too, you won't be able to eat the shrine. Oh well, you bring the carbon anyway. Okay, so now the Gemara says, fine, we pay the Shomrei Svichim from the Trumas Alishka. But how are you going to pay them? We're giving them hektish money. They need to have it as chulin. How it's going to become chulin. So, it says more, Ketsu Osa. Nota Mos Min Shulchani. So it says, I should read the Kotak and Chadatin. It says, Ketsu Osa, Masitzim Hadam Farish, Ketzad, Fusha, Ketzad, Portland Shomrei Svichim. How do we pay them? The Mishka Yev Shaloti hektish l'chulin l'hedge. They can take money directly from hektish and just give for chulin. So how are we paying them? So the Gemara says, "Nota most min shulchani." You take money from the shulchani, from a money changer. So the money you're taking, you're borrowing from the money changer. It's more the hektish is borrowing the money, and let's see, Pnei Moshe. He explains it. Shein chulin. Right, a bar of noisim l'sharm. You give it to the people who are harvesting and being sharm of the carbon during Shemitah. But actually, yikra v'omer, and before the omer is sacrificed, mavishul mos mijumas alishkan. So now the omer is still chulin, paid for with chulin money. So we pay them with chulin money. The omer itself is still chulin. Everything's still chulin. So now you take money with Chumas Alishka, umevi, and bring it mechanalav al schar shekimu shulchani, and now you use it to pay for the carbon omer. For they use it to pay for the carbon omer. So the omer becomes hektish, and the money now, which is given to in lieu of the omer, right, becomes chulin, right, because the exchange of kedusha is taking place, and then. And then you pay the you pay the money changer back for the money that they gave. So money changers pay back for the money that he extended to the salary, from the money which now has become chulin because it has been used to pay for the carbon omer. Okay, so we're not so happy with this. As Commentator says, second parish here, and the Reb Chaim says, the omer is worth a lot less in the open marketplace than that you're paying for these kotzim and shomrim. Obviously, there was an overhead here. It's much more than you pay for normal flour. So how's the money for hektish, enough money for hektish being redeemed that it's going to be able to cover all the expenditures which we have here, right? So, Rabbi Achal b'shem Rabbi Pua said, "Kol mashitein hein heim dama mishar rishayim." So he says, no, I don't know if the economics works this way, but he says, whatever costs during Shemitah, where we're giving the Shomrei Svichos, that's its price during Shemitah. In other words, whatever hektish has to spend, that's the price. So we don't go by the absolute price in the marketplace. We go by what hektish has to spend, and whatever hektish has to spend, that becomes the price for the carbon omer. Okay, it's not normal economics. The economics of the carbon, like they say, like the army pays tremendous amount of money for its supplies, like pay for a faucet $100. Okay, for the army, that's the cost. For other people, it might be different costs because of the other considerations. But always is the cost, whatever cost for that customer at that point, and for hektish. Or this, you need that. So just as the Reb Chaim says, you need Shomrei Svichos during Shemitah, which other people don't have that cost. You have to pay for that cost. Okay. Tani, we learned the people who used to carve the stones, the stone cutters for the Beis Hamikdash, they also had to be paid that way. Because you can't pay the stone cutters directly from money of hektish. How's it going to be a silchun? So notam most mishuchani, you take the money from a storekeeper, you borrow the money. The nice chaitzim l'satim, and you give it to the people who work in the quarries. Right, the chaitzim are the quarriers. L'satim are the carvers, the stone cutters. Actually, nothing a gabidimus before you put it on the on the row in the Beis Hamikdash before it becomes hektish. Okay, so now it's still chulin. So I was teaching yesterday. I mentioned in class. Sorry. I mentioned in class that the last stones added to the kaisel were added by Moshe Montefiore. They raised the height of the kaisel, the small stones on the top were added by Moshe Montefiore, and presumably when they put them on, I never thought before they become hektish because they're put on top of the kaisel, which is part and parcel of the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, when you put them on the dimus, that's when they become hektish. So again, nothing most we should call him nice and something actually dimus. You put it on there before it's on the row. Maybe most michuma salishka, and again, what's the you take money from salishka and you machal on it. So Chaim says interesting. He says, why can't they just work with Avnei Kodesh? What's the big deal, right? Let them work with Avnei Kodesh. So he says because lo need Torah malach and they might be moil by coming to lean on the stones and something like that while they're working on them. So therefore, want the stones to make kodesh until they're finished product. So says more of a tabukain. Same problem as before, since it's native. Sometimes the stones they're working on are not going to be good stones. They're going to have to toss them. So again, here they're going to there's going to be more overhead, and let's say the value of the stones, because they're paying them for work which they did, which are not necessarily going to reflect the finished product because they had to a lot of trial and error. And it could be other reasons as well. I don't know, but the point is that there's not the price, the marketplace price. They're paying more than that for these stones. So the Gemara says also here, Rabbi Yosef said, "Mashiyitin hein da man b'shar." Yeah, you need a top-notch product. You're paying for the top dollar. It's like you pay for the same item from a top-notch to a luxury item. Be paying for more than you pay for the normal workaday product. So here too, so which go to Beis Hamikdash. The fact that there are all sorts of potential payments that you're making, which you wouldn't normally make for chulin. That's the price of doing business. By the way, in terms of Montefiore stones, the Bnei Moshe is something strange. I don't know why it says that. I shall think of it. He was binyan mishnitinasein. What's it put there? Chal chov schano hektish ain't a cover lahektish. Sounds like it's not an issue of they become hektish and you can't be mechal anymore, but it's not cover lahektish. I don't know why he says that. Moshe B'shai said once a dimus they're hektish periods, not an issue of cover hektish. Okay, next mission comes and tells us about things which are which was lipshka, which are not. Para Duma, the Soy Mishlech, and the Soy Mishlech, which goes Hazazel. The Lashon Shel Zoris, and the Lashon Zoris, the red yarn or thread, which is put into the Sreifas Ha Para, Boim Shumas Lishka, and the Kormei says, what's the Chiddush on Mishnah? I forgot the Pora ain't on the Shchetes Bazar, even though the Pora Duma is not shechted in the Azara, right? And Bamichu Mesalishka, the Chatas Karachman, the Torah calls the Chatas, and the Soy Mishalech, even though the Soy Mishalech is also not shechted in the Beis Hamikdash, since they need to buy two Sirim, Me'edo, Ezem, Yala, Agor, Hashem. You don't know which of them is going to become Hashem, one is Lazazel. So both of them have the status of Karbonis. They come from the Chumas Alishka. Losh Zaretz Shnito Las, this red thread, Shmashtichim Tosef as a par, they toss into the burn of the par. Woodin Lates Erev as Vaiso. It's true also about the cedar wood and the hyssop wood. No, Losh Zaretz, Levad just mentions Losh Zaretz Yelchalik, but Losh Zaretz Zeh, distinguish between this one, the Lashon Shel Soy Mishlech, and the Lashon Shel Zaretz of the Soy Mishlech. He's hanging the red thread between its horns and also part of it in the Beis Hamikdash to see if it turned white, that was not intrinsic to the korban itself. That couldn't come from Trumas Liska. So this Lashon shows Zoris yes, that other Lashon Zoris still not. So that's where it says, the Mishnah says, Kevesh Pora. The Kevesh Pora, they would make elaborate, as the Korban Eidah says, elaborate bridges. Shusim Snake, it's literally Kevesh means a ramp. They make two bridges, one on top of the other, and they kever at home in order to preserve elaborate tahara and doing the paraduma process, because they're going to have a Tfu Yom, do it at the end. Lehotzim Yilibam and Shal Tztoikim hold that Tfu Yom can't do the paraduma. Before that, took extra special precautions to keep it super tahar, just in order to show them. And that's so this was not intrinsic to the korban. It's this double bridge. So then, therefore, it would not be made from Trumas Alishka. And Kevis Sawyer, the ramp they made for the Sar Lazaza. Also, Korban Eidah says that they would do this Minei Bavli, because the Babylonians, they said we're not really Babylonians, but there were other people as well. Toshim Besara, they would pluck the hair of the person who's taking the soil Azazel and say, get out of here, and church, and in order to prevent these physical attacks. When they're saying say, not to leave our affairs here, so they built this ramp for safeguarding. So that's also not intrinsic to the korban. The relationship and Kranav, and the relationship shows which was between the horns of the soil. And you have the water works, which went through the Hazara for whatever needs they had. Besides obviously what they took from the Kior, which was for the Avodah, which is necessary because you're down for the Avodah. They had general waterworks there, and Chomas Ha'ir and the walls of the city and its towers, and all the needs of the city. By Shara Lishka, they all would come from the Shara Lishka, and whatever was left over at the end, not from the Trumas Lishka, because that's what they used to do with the Shara Lishka. Abishol Omer, Kevesh Para, the ramp for the Paraduma. The Kohanim Gedolim Osim Osam Mishal Atzum. The Kohanim Gedolim would pay from their own pocket for the for the Paraduma, and of course it's a rare thing. The Kohen Gadol has the privilege of having the Kohen Gadol done during this time, even though the Kohen Gadol did not have to be the Kohen who did the Avodah of the Paraduma. It can be done by Kohen Hediot. Nevertheless, it's called his Paraduma, so he paid for it. The Kohen Gadol says something Shalatzman. Most of Shorei Lishka was left over from the Shorei Lishka after the Tzorcha year and everything else was done with it. All the budget was used up for that year. What will you take for them? For what you buy with them? Yenos ushmanim uslosos. They would buy with them wine and oil and flour, and they would sell them for the purpose of the korbanos, which people have to bring. Vaschar Hektish, and Hektish would make the money off the sale. David Rabbi Shmuel, that's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. You don't make money off Hektish. It is not too capacity to use for that purpose, and for Hektish make money, and the Takachad says maybe there'll be a loss, but the others say that as the Korban Eidah said, the Moshe Korban, you say Ein Aniyas Mokum Ashir, it's Gunayul Hektish. It's degrading for Hektish, be used for that purpose. So the article brings down, which says, so what do they do according to what the Shor Lishka and Rabbi Akiva? So he brings down here a couple of opinions. The Rambam says that they use the money with Chita Mizbech. They use the money, as we mentioned earlier in Masechta, they would use the money in order to bring extra korbanos when there were no korbanos. And Ab Mishalanim, the Gemara says, Ab Mishalim Yosi don't do Masa Matan with money which is made for the purpose of Anim. And there the Takhan thing would seem to be the true right, that, because we're afraid there's going to be a loss. But the others learned that, like Karmei and Moshe say, that it's because maybe an Ani will come and you won't have money for him available, because you used it already for to invest it. So you don't invest it in order to have always funds readily available, but for necessity. And that brings us to the end of the Amud, the end of the Mishnah too. No, not yet. We're in the middle of the Mishnah, but we'll stop here for today.